Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. How the internet is deceiving you. That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. As you may know, the movie American Sniper is a huge hit, and it's favorable to the U.S. military. Clint Eastwood's film makes a sharp distinction between the evil of the terrorists in Iraq and the nobility of the American sniper, Chris Kyle. Because of that, the far left's going nuts, launching hateful attacks on the film and on Mr. Kyle. And most of the libel is found on the net. Here's a good example of how all Americans are being deceived, not only about American Sniper, but about important issues in general. This woman, 33-year-old Amanda Taub, writes for a website called Vox.com. That site is crazy far left, and Ms. Taub may even be a terrorist sympathizer. After Taliban savages murdered 132 school children in northern Pakistan, outraging the world, Ms. Taub tried to explain why the Taliban did it. Quote, Taliban militants have been killed during the group's years-long conflict with the Pakistani military. The Pakistani military's use of bombings and artillery strikes virtually guarantee civilian casualties. It is also plausible that the Taliban believes earnestly the Pakistani military is deliberately targeting its family members. So here we have Amanda Taub providing a rationale for the slaughter of 132 innocent schoolchildren. Does it get much worse? Her article about American Sniper was posted on a number of internet providers, including Yahoo. But those providers did not tell you, the reader, who Ms. Taub is or the quality of the organization for whom she works. They just post her disgusting stuff without any context. Here's what Taub said about the movie, quote, American Sniper stacks its narrative deck using imaginary history and characters to give Chris Kyle a suitably evil foe to fight. While it's never great to see a movie falsify a true story, American Sniper's disdainful attitude towards the truth is especially disingenuous. Taub's view is, of course, preposterous. She portrays the enemy in Iraq as victims of American aggression. Therefore, Chris Kyle and all U.S. troops are the bad guys in her mind. Here's the truth. Mr. Kyle and all American military personnel were fighting two main groups: the Baathists, who supported the savage Saddam Hussein, and Al-Qaeda in Mesopotamia, hardcore terrorists who committed atrocities on civilians that horrified the world. Those were the people Chris Kyle killed with his sniper rifle. The chief danger here is not from a propagandist like Amanda Taub. It's the entire internet climate. Americans are often presented with information that's false, libelous, and distorted in the extreme. There are no journalistic standards on the net. Few websites even have editors looking at it. They just post this stuff and walk away. Unfortunately, many Americans believe what they read, and therefore there is danger to the republic. If you know anything about history, you know that dictators, both on the left and the right, first controlled the press. The Nazis and the communists put out a steady stream of dishonest garbage, brainwashing their population. To some extent, that's happening now in free societies with the elevation of the net. And it's flat out dangerous. And that's a memo. Now for the top story tonight. Reaction. Joining us from Washington, former blogger Matthew Duss, president of the Foundation of Middle East Peace. And here in the studio, Nomiki Konst, a former blogger for the Huffington Post. So where am I going wrong here, Nomiki?
Oh, my goodness. So, Bill, you know, the Nazis had like two vehicles to release their information.
Radio and newspapers.
Exactly. And today we live in a world where there are multiple, millions, literally millions of ways to communicate different messages to different echo chambers. So people who want to read and hear what they think will go to what they read and think. And that's just the nature of it.
No problem with that.
In a free press society.
Right.
So you're saying that we should regulate that. Who is this? The government?
I didn't say anything about regulating. I said if you want to have a Vox.com far-left kooky website.
It's a media company.
More power to you. Go ahead, knock yourself out. Because as you rightly pointed out, you go there or you don't go there. But when it gets over into the big ones, all right, Google and Yahoo and all of these things, and they just post it, all right, with no context, That's propaganda. It's wrong, and it's happening all over the place.
Well, usually they don't do that unless it's with a real media company. Those are those partnerships.
No,
so Vox
if you look at this,
editors,
look, where do you think I got this top thing? I didn't get it from Vox.
No, but Washington Post, Ezra Klein was a Washington Post columnist, and he is part of Vox Media. These are real journalists who have editors that are working with them.
Ezra Klein is as far left as they come. And I have no beef with him making a living, but I do have a beef with these irresponsible agents, these ones that distribute, putting this stuff up without any context. And you say, Mr. Duss?
Well, first of all, I have to take a bit of issue with your description of what Amanda Taub's writing as propaganda. I think she's a fine writer. I think Vox is a fine website.
I know, but
let's just get to this issue.
Look, she's a fine writer.
Thank you.
Did you read the article about the Taliban slaughtering the kids?
You
had no problem with that, right?
Yeah, I'd like to address that specifically.
Go ahead.
I think we have to deal with this issue that trying to understand what motivates these insurgent groups. Granted that they do horrible things.
She was sympathetic to them. Not motivating.
I completely disagree.
Sympathetic.
I think what she was trying to do is offer.
You can't read. You literally
maybe I
cannot read the words. I put them on the screen.
You didn't put all the words
Taliban,
on the screen.
they might have been targeted.
To go and read the entire article.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I think if we want to have smart policy, if we want to have smart policy, I think we do need to try and understand what motivates these groups. And simply having an analysis that says they're evil and we need to kill them just doesn't do it.
Let me ask you a simple question, because I'm a simple man.
Sure.
All right? Do you think that the people American troops were killing in Iraq during the war were victims? Do you think that the groups that were fighting us were victims? Yes or no, Mr. Duss?
Some of them were.
Some of them were.
I think yes, some of them were, not all of them.
I applaud your honesty. I applaud it. Now let's get back to you.
Would you allow me to explain my answer?
No, I won't. I'm not going to let you explain your left-wing propaganda on this. If you think Al-Qaeda of Mesopotamia and the Ba'athists were victims, then you are a nut.
No. I'm not saying those groups were victims. I'm saying that there were certain reasons why normal Iraqis chose to join those groups.
Normal Iraqis didn't. They sat it out. All right, they sat it out.
That's simply untrue.
No, that's simply true. The people who were fighting us were terrorists, all right, down the line.
No, if you go back to the counterinsurgency strategy, go to what General Petraeus said when he brought forth his counterinsurgency strategy in Iraq. He had the idea of reconcilables and irreconcilables.
With the Sunni chieftains who turned against the terrorists who Kyle was killing. All right, I got to get back to Nomiki.
So you're saying that those chieftains who were fighting
Mr. Duss, with all due respect, we're not even in the same universe, you and me, okay? We're not even in the same planet. We're not.
That hurts.
All right, it must, because I can't even talk to a guy like you. You're that far out there. You and Amanda should go out for tea and talk about how victimized the Taliban is and knock yourself out. All right, Nomiki.
Sure, Bill.
You heard that. You heard that exchange, and this is two different worlds. Now, I don't hold it against Mr. Duss that he carries those views, as misguided as I think they are. But if Matthew Duss posts something, I want everyone to know what his worldview is. Is that wrong?
Well, I think that with Google, you can do that very easily. We can easily search who these people are.
If you take the time. But how many Americans do you really think do that?
And that's a problem. But the same thing happens on Twitter. People will post things on Twitter, and it's not validated. But the best way to solve that...
I'm not a Twitter booster either. If you write an op-ed in a newspaper, it tells at the bottom who you are and what agency you're coming from. It doesn't do it on the net. Last word.
Best way to rebut it, more opinions. We're in a free society where we have freedom of speech, and you just rebutted hers. That's the best way to do it.
Well, this show is a different situation because we identify who's on the show, and they get to give their opinion. And look, again, I like Mr. Duss. I think he's an honest man. He answered the questions honestly. But he and I are so far apart that I don't think we can ever even have a discussion because my head's going to blow off. But I appreciate you guys coming on.
Thank you.
Next on The Rundown, the Muslim